What's going on, YouTube? Metal Complex here. Very, very excited to be bringing you an amazing folding knife today. This is a very special knife that I've been waiting on for a very long time. It's also something that's totally different than anything that's ever been shown on this channel, and it was by complete luck that I was able to even get my hands on this. So first and foremost, I want to make sure and thank David, my friend, for letting me show this knife. This is not my knife. This is David's knife, it's just really neat to be showing this because I have personally lusted after this particular model for a very long time, and it's really cool to be able to say that I even got to touch it, you know. So that's pretty cool. So thank you, David. Also, Alex, thank you for letting me use your truck. The console in this truck is much larger, and I feel a little bit safer handling a knife like this rather than the tiny little console in my car. Alex, thank you for doing that. Also, Alex has got his knives in here, so that'll work out really well for some size comparisons. Anyways, they're like, I'm sure you guys are like, shut up and get the knife out. So here is the certificate of authenticity for this bad boy. For those of you who don't know, the knife is a Todd Begg Beggatti, not the Bodega. The Beggatti is the big guy. If you're familiar with, I think the first person to really kind of show it off or make it known to the world in terms of the YouTube world was Jim Skelton when he showed his off however many years back. That's when I started lusting after it, seeing that on his channel. So anyways, this is a Beggatti, a mirror XHP blade. The inlay is Star Strike carbon fiber. The frame is Thai Jewel Ice DLC coated. That's really cool. That configuration has never been shown on YouTube, and I spoke with the Beggs and some other people there with Todd Begg knives. There are only 6 black ice DLC frames. Each one has a different inlay. This is one of those, so this is a very, very special piece. Yeah, and it was born November of 2018. So that's the document there for anybody who was curious. And I know we're 2.5 minutes into the video and I still haven't shown the knife, so here it is. We're out here today because the lighting out here is fantastic and it's going to be necessary. By the way, here's the box. It's pretty cool. It's got some designs on there that show up. It's got a little magnet on it. Pretty nice box. I was pretty happy to see that. Anyways, here is the knife. This is a really incredible piece in person, and everything that you've heard in terms of whether or not the camera does it justice. No, the camera does not do it justice. This is a shocking, incredible piece in person. There is your blade. Holy moly, is that an amazing blade. This is a true mirror finish. You've got compound grind, and then you've got the satin flats, or the I'm not sure, a hand rub satin flats, something like that. One thing about a mirror finish is that it's very difficult to keep all of the fingerprints off of it, and you are constantly feeling compelled to keep fingerprints off of it. So I have that microfiber cloth there to do that. I'm gonna lay this down. Actually, here, we'll do some size comparisons real quick, just so we can get an idea. This knife, the Beggatti, is just short of 9 inches overall with a 3.85 inch blade. So there it is versus the large and advertised as overbuilt ZT0562. And I say that because it's dwarfed by the massiveness of this knife. Let's take a look at the thickness here. This is a fairly thick knife at 0.155 thickness. This is a much thicker blade and knife altogether at 0.25 thickness and 3/16 thick titanium. For anybody who's curious, another knife that is notorious for being ridiculously overbuilt and is very famous in the knife world right now, the Praetorian Thai, has the exact same dimensions as this knife. 0.25 stock or 1/4 inch stock thick steel blade, and then you have 3/16 titanium on either side. So that is the same kind of deal there. It probably doesn't make sense to do this, but here it is against the Rat 2. Just for anybody to kind of get an idea, I wanted to pick two knives that people had either seen or handled, just so we could get the true size of that thing there. So I want to tell this story. So David's a really cool guy. We've talked forever about folding knives, and I finally got him interested enough to buy his first nice folding knife, which was actually a Spyderco Manix 2. I told him how much I love the Manix 2, and if you're familiar with this channel, then you know how much I love it. And he said, okay. And just so we're clear, David has the financial means to acquire knives in whatever quantity or quality that he wants to. That's as much as I'm going to say about that. But he's a cool guy, he's a humble guy, and he kind of he went off my recommendation for the Spyderco, despite being able to afford pretty much whatever he wanted. And he loved it. He said, I really like how they take they put attention into the ergonomics and the blade design and functionality and all that stuff. I think that's really cool. I had never even considered that to be a thing, with pocket knives. And I said, well, they actually do get higher in quality and material. So we talked a lot about that. And his second nice knife ever, was actually straight out of my collection. I sold him one of my Hinderer Eclipses, which has actually not been shown on this channel before. It's a Hinderer Eclipse with a gray and black layered G10 scale. It's kind of a rare Eclipse, 20 CV. I sold him that, and that was his second knife, and he loved that. And after a while, he came back and he said, okay, I'm ready to spend some money. And we're not going to talk about the price of this guy because I think that might, flame up some arguments. That is not the purpose of this video. We are not reviewing this knife in terms of functionality or whether or not the price is justified. We are simply viewing a knife that has sort of created its mark in the world. The Todd Begg Beggatti is certainly a knife that stands out and is recognized by a lot of people, and they're incredible to look at, incredible to hold, incredible just to experience, and that's kind of what we're doing here today. So anyways, if you want to go look up the price for yourself, you can, but if that kind of thing bothers you, just know that the gentleman who purchased this knife does not care what anybody thinks about whether or not it's justified. So if you feel the need to comment on that, you can, but I don't know that we really need to argue about it. So anyways, he said, what's out there for that amount of money? And I said, well, we'll look around. And I know that, a lot of the really famous knife makers, they have closed books, and it's really hard to get custom orders and things from them. And I was looking on their website, and I saw a Beggatti for sale. And it wasn't anything that I thought David might be interested in terms of the inlay and the design. And so I ended up calling just to see kind of what was available, what was out at other retailers. And I forget the gentleman's name who answered the phone, but he said, actually, it's funny you ask. We are about to make 6 unique black ice DLC titanium frames. And if you want one, then you can request the inlay that you want. And I said, oh, David, we've got to do this. The Lightning Strike, or the Star Strike carbon fiber, as they call it, against a black ice DLC frame is probably one of the most beautiful, in my mind, I was thinking would be the most beautiful contrast that I could imagine. And I'd like to say that I was right. And so we went ahead and did that. And 6 weeks later, we have this incredible piece right here. There is no other way that I would do this. And ever since I saw the one on Jim Skelton's video, I thought, that is like the ultimate folding knife to me. It's big and thick, and I've got a soft spot for big, thick, overbuilt folders. My interest in this hobby peaked in 2012, 2013, which is when that trend started happening. And so this it mixes elegance and fun, and just the design, and I mean, what I'm saying is that the thickest knife that I've ever owned in my collection was a Medford Marauder, which also had the same dimensions. And that was a really big, awesome, overbuilt knife, but it did not have the refinement of a knife like this. This knife is unbelievably refined in terms of the contouring, the way that these lines meet up. This is perfectly seamless right here. You can't feel the difference there other than the texturing on the titanium. It is perfectly met up. The way that it meets on the pivot collar here, let's see if I can capture that. How close it meets there. Your screws, the centering. I mean, quite literally, we're looking at dead perfect centering on this guy. The way that the pivots polished in there, and just the finishing on the edges here, the backside. I mean, the backside is just incredible. Take a look at this fuller here. The way the pocket clip is done. They continued that ice finished all the way around, and even inside on the underside of the backspacer. A lot of people don't like the texturing on the backspacer, or at least some of what I've read. I remember Jim Skelton saying he didn't really like it. I love this. I love how that's textured. I love that it's iced in random places outside of that texturing. Not random, just top and bottom. And I love that they iced it on the inside. I think that's awesome. I mean, the entire thing, for anybody who's curious about the lockup, there's your lockup. Pretty early, but again, you have to remember how thick that is and how much actual engagement there is on this overly thick 3/16 lock bar. Really, really cool. And yes, it is absolutely a free dropper. I mean, part of that's the thickness and weight of the blade, but it's also in how incredibly smooth these ceramic bearings are inside here. This also has, you can see in there, that bar. That's the internal stop pin that kind of rides around the blade, so you know that it actually stops opened and closed. The action on this is unbelievable. For anybody wondering, does a knife that costs that much really have that much better action than a ZT? I kind of had an issue with imagining how much better it could actually get. But let me tell you, now that I've handled a a flipper that runs on bearings that's 3/16 titanium, sandwiching a 1/4 inch thick steel blade, yes, it does. And that's hard to imagine. This right here feels like nothing, and it's like the only time that my brain actually registers that something has happened is the click that the blade makes when it locks out. I know that that's really odd, or that's a really odd way to describe that, but the detent is perfect. It's heavy enough to hold the blade in position, and it certainly has to be heavy considering how heavy this blade is and how easy it would be for force to swing it out if it weren't heavy. But it is staying in place, so you have to put a reasonable amount of pressure here, but once you do, that thing flies out. The relationship between the flipper tab, the pivot, the weight of this blade, the shape of this blade, it is so perfect, and the detent, that when that thing goes, it's going, and man does it feel good. You can see the recoil that's happening when I flip that, because just the shock of the impact of that blade on the stop pin and my hand, it shakes because it's so heavy duty, and it's an amazing feeling. It's truly amazing, and it's pretty rare for me to, you know, we all do. I feel like a lot of us do the same thing. We lust after a knife forever, and then we finally order it, and then we wait for however long for it to come in, and then it comes in, and you're real happy for a sec, but then for whatever reason you're let down, and internally what you paid for the knife versus what you expected, and that correlation starts to kind of fizzle away. Not with this. I mean, I've never handled anything that has come anywhere close to the caliber of this. So, I mean, yeah, you could say like it's really hard. It would be really hard for me to make that type of comparison. Plus, this isn't my knife. But man, this thing feels exactly how I would imagine a knife that costs this much feels. I mean, just how everything is finished, how everything looks, how perfect everything is, all the way around this knife. It's just absolutely stunning. And by the way, You know, I know because somebody's going to say it. Well, that's great and all. It's a 1/4 inch thick, but does it cut? Yeah, it cuts. It's not going to, I mean, come on, guys. It's not going to shave toilet paper. It's a 1/4 inch thick, you know. But this compound grind here, this initial part is ground hollow, so it's a little thinner behind the edge, and then you have this much thicker section up here. But we tested it out right when we got it, and I'm not going to cut anything with it because this is David's knife, and everybody's different about stuff like that. I'm sure he wouldn't care, but I'm not going to do it. This isn't mine. We were actually getting curlicues on the top of a piece of paper, just going real slow, and you know how you kind of just get right there at the top of a piece of paper, and it was creating those little curlicues. So this thing is definitely sharp. But really, for the most part, I mean, what I'm trying to get across here, what I'm trying to emphasize in terms of appreciation is the amount of time and effort and attention to detail that went into this is just stunning. I mean, it's just amazing. It's so beautiful and so flawless. There's not a single part of this knife. I'm sorry. I'm getting my hands all over this, and I'm just, you know, I'm sure there's people laughing, rolling their eyes. They're like, this guy actually has to stop what he's saying to to shine that up. But it's just so beautiful. I mean, the inside of those fullers there, they polish those. The contrast between that flat, that satin flat, and the mirror polish on the blade is just so stunning. It's excellent. This is, in my, you know, it's weird. This is a weird moment for me because in my head, this was a knife that, in terms of the design, the look, the materials, and everything, it was like the pinnacle to me. And I know that there are knives out there that come in more exotic materials that cost a lot more money, but in my mind, this is like the penultimate, you know, form of excellence in terms of a folding knife. It's everything that I would want. It's a big, thick, overbuilt, heavy-duty flipper that's got crazy cool exotic materials, and it has a really wicked, aggressive-looking blade, and I mean, the ergonomics, which, by the way, are amazing. This forward choil here in relationship to where you're going to put your hand on this guy, this right here feels amazing. It feels incredible. I love this. Ergonomically, this thing is just stunning. The contouring on the handle is going to have to do with that. But anyways, so here we are, and I'm, in my opinion, you know, nowhere near anywhere close to having the ultimate knife collection or experiencing all the different things that I wanted to experience. And now all of a sudden I'm holding what really truly is like my dream knife. You know, I would love to have a Praetorian tie. And I'm sure people are going to roll their eyes at that because my channel oftentimes does kind of center around the practical nature of a folding knife and whether or not the design actually makes sense. But again, we're in a different caliber here. But yeah, like I'm experiencing my dream knife, or at least one of my dream knives right now, and it's so far beyond anything that I have ever been able to purchase for myself. That it's odd. It's an odd feeling, but it's incredible, and it's way better than I ever could have imagined that it was going to be. I mean, it's stunning. I can't believe that somebody created this. Let's get a look at this Star Strike here. That copper wire that's woven into the carbon fiber, and the way that this sealant or this polymer, whatever this is over the top, this glassy finish, reflects and contrasts with the black ice finish. Oh my gosh, it's just beautiful. And on the other side here, I mean, you can see, you know, there were no shortcuts. This thing is just absolutely put together as perfectly as you would hope for, you know. In my mind, I thought, you know, well, maybe I'll find a flaw here or there. I'll find something. I mean, it's hard to get everything exactly right. But no, this knife was very, very perfectly put together. And I remember hearing that each one of these has 45, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but you're looking at essentially 40, 45-ish hours of handwork. Sorry, I'm adjusting my brightness. That goes into each one of these, potentially more, and I could be wrong about that. It could be way more than that. It could vary from knife to knife, but there's a lot of handwork that goes into each one of these. But this is a very, very special one, and Exactly why it's so special, I'm going to leave between the makers and David, just because that was kind of his deal, and how we ended up with this was lucky, and what we ended up doing with it was interesting. But this is a very special version of this knife, and the only one so far that in this configuration that is on YouTube, and I'm very honored to be able to show it. Because my channel has traditionally just been kind of the flagship models that are out there that you expect to see, and I'm not doing anything different than anybody else. My channel doesn't offer anything incredibly unique other than just this guy's perspective, this guy's opinion on stuff, and I enjoy doing it. But man, I have this amazing opportunity to show this thing, and I'm just beside myself with happiness at the opportunity here. So anyways, I think we were talking about the carbon fiber. I was trying to give you guys a close-up when I started messing with the brightness, but let's get to the other side here. Again, the camera will not do this carbon fiber justice. But you'll have to trust me when I say, if you were able to hold this in person, the only thing that would come to mind, the only thing that your mouth would be able to do is say, holy shit. It's amazing. I don't know what else you can really say about it. I mean, this is just one of those things that's so different and than I mean, even like the really nice stuff. When I hand people a Hinderer, they say, wow, because they've never handled anything like that. And Hinderer makes an excellent knife. You hand somebody something like this, no, it doesn't matter if you're a knife person, if you're not a knife person, if whether you're bothered by knives, whether you're not bothered by knives, it doesn't matter who you are, this is a shocking thing. I mean, this is just amazing. It's very obvious that this is not a cheap thing. This is not something that you can go purchase on a shelf somewhere. This is a very amazing piece of craftsmanship. And I don't know. I know I'm going on and saying the same things over and over and over again, but it's hard to put to words exactly how I'm feeling about this. The cutout for your thumb raises slightly up so you can catch it right there, disengage easily. That flipper tab does catch your thumb right here, so you have an opportunity to actually move your fingers out of the way, which you really do want to do because that can come down hard. But if you're used to dealing with that, then you're gonna, if you ever handle one of these, then you're going to know exactly how to handle it. Pocket clip is very interesting. We haven't talked about that. I love that they use that little ceramic ball bearing. It's very tight. Despite the weight of the blade, I'm not sure why he would do that, but if he ever did need to do that, then he certainly could, but it's not going to come out of there in any case. That's kind of what I'm getting at there. But they did include that finish on the pocket clip. Looks really, really cool. And then you've got two screws up there. It actually does keep the majority of the knife in your pocket. There's not a whole lot showing. And according to David, it does carry pretty well. Now, this guy weighs like 9 ounces. In fact, it weighs 9 ounces exactly. So it's very heavy, and that is obviously a factor, but a lot of whether or not its knife is comfortable to carry has to do with the dimensions of it. And this banana shape on this knife is actually going to make it a lot more comfortable to carry for him than other knives of this size and caliber. Anybody who's wondering, yeah, he's going to carry this. Some people... or most people, I imagine, would put it in a safe somewhere. David wants to carry it, and it's his, and I think that's pretty cool. That's probably going to be one of the most incredible everyday carry knives that anybody would ever expect to come out of a pocket, but it's going to be there. So the back of this does have jimping at the top, which is a place to put your thumb if you're holding it in the reverse position, and then there is a lanyard hole. So some fairly standard features on an otherwise incredibly exotic folding knife, but just incredible, just incredible. The play on words with the Beggatti, and obviously that's meant as a joke, against the Bugatti, which to me represents luxury meeting power, which absolutely was met with this knife. I mean, there are lots of overbuilt knives out there that, you know, you may or may not be able to use for tasks that require more force or a more heavy-duty tool. But when you mix that with this type of refinement, you get something truly unique. And this knife has achieved that beautifully. And I just think it's one of the most excellent examples of what some of the makers in this industry are capable of, and I'm really, really proud to be able to show it. So that's pretty much it today, guys. We've gone on long enough, and I hope everybody got a view of this. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me. If I you know, didn't show a part of the knife that you wanted to see, you know, ask me about it. Happy to answer questions. But in any case, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, then please do. I've got lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you like all of my content, then please subscribe to my channel, because there's definitely more coming. I've got another really, really cool knife coming in. Should be in tomorrow. I'm not sure when I'll do the video, but keep your eyes out for that one, because it's another really cool one. So anyways, thanks again for watching, and have a great day.